Thanks to our friends at The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Check out the link below, fool.com/the smattering, to get access to the 10 best stocks to buy right now. So Tesla reported earnings a couple of weeks ago. We saw production numbers, we saw delivery numbers. Now we have more of a full picture of what's going on. Since it reported, the stock looks like it's down about 10% as we're recording this. But a lot of investors are trying to figure out, what do we think going forward? We saw another record quarter of deliveries, record revenue, strong earnings, profitability has come down. So a lot of questions right now, and maybe not a lot of answers in people's minds. I'm Jason Hall. This is The Smattering, and I'm excited that I've got my good friend, the voice of the people, Jeff Santoro, is here with me to talk about it. How's it going, Jeff?
Hey, it's going well. I'm happy to talk about Tesla because I don't own it or follow it that closely, but man, does it get talked a lot in the Twitter sphere and in the investing world. So there's always things to debate when it comes to Tesla.
Yeah, and Elon Musk, of course, is one of the most public CEOs, business leaders anywhere in the world, really. So it's easy to form opinions about Tesla just based on what you think about Elon Musk. And I want to do something different. I don't want to talk about Musk very much at all, writ large, a little bit, but I really kind of want to focus on what's going on with Tesla, the business, and try to contextualize its results for investors looking forward, Jeff.
I think when it comes to Tesla, you sort of have to do that or else you're just going to get stuck in the noise cycle.
Yeah, and it's easy to do. Here is Q2 2023, the one that was just reported. We see it highlighted in kind of that light red. Again, $21 billion in automotive revenues. I think the record was 21.3 billion in the fourth quarter of last year. So almost a record revenue quarter, 46% growth in that. Pretty strong revenue in its energy generation storage. That's mostly Tesla batteries, Powerwall, that kind of stuff. Service revenue is again pretty good. We're starting to see that grow. Put all the revenues together and almost 25 billion, the most revenue ever in the quarter. But we're starting to see some weakness in gross profit and gross margin. But Jeff, that was expected, right?
Yeah, and when you see the bear case, made out there, a lot of people kind of point to the gross margins. They say with incentives and bringing the price down, this is going to be like a death spiral of gross margin down and down and down. And I don't know, the thing I keep thinking about is considering they started from sort of a competitive advantage when it comes to margin compared to some of their automaker peers, they have a little bit of wiggle room here. At least that's how I see it. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, I think to a certain extent, yes, I think that's the case. Tyler Crow and I did a video on this channel a few days after they first released their production numbers. We didn't have the full earnings. And we talked about the uncertainty around how would competition and kind of this advantage they've had with pricing power, maybe that's starting to erode. How would that affect the quarter? And looking kind of at the longer term. And we got a bit of an answer. And part of the answer, maybe the bears might not like to hear this, but we're starting to see volume story is kind of working. Yes, operating margin and gross margin have come down substantially. We're not going to get around that, right? Total operating margin was less than 10% in the quarter, but that's still so much better than every automaker, right? So I think the point is that there's still room for them to be price competitive if they need to and still be more profitable than most automakers. That's really, really important. There's something that came up on the earnings call that I think left investors with a little bit of uncertainty, Jeff, and that was production going forward and maybe deliveries going forward in the third quarter.
Yeah, and that's interesting to me too. And this is completely anecdotal, but there's a Tesla storage area, for lack of a better term, kind of near my house that I drive by a lot. And 2-3 years ago, there used to be maybe a couple dozen Teslas parked there waiting for someone to buy them. Now there are hundreds. So I wonder if a lot of the ramp up in production we saw the last couple of years was in preparation for this planned slowdown in the next quarters as they get their whatever's happening with their factories to kind of get them up to speed. So I do wonder if this is actually in the long term a good thing for Tesla, because it could sort of help balance out the supply demand issues that are right now seem to be tipping more towards supply rather than demand.
Yeah, and of course the story is bigger than just Tesla with that. We've seen from a lot of the other EV manufacturers, the startups especially, it seems like they're struggling with pre-orders and they're struggling to get online with their manufacturing, not necessarily having strong enough demand for the capacity they're bringing online. And something I've talked about with our colleague and friend Travis Hoyam, and that same video I did with Tyler looking at production numbers, is you can go back multiple quarters, really just about a year now, and their production has exceeded deliveries in every quarter. It started to come down, but I kind of feel like, Jeff, to that anecdote you were talking about with what you're seeing there in your area, and then looking again just on the reported deliveries versus production, it does seem like maybe Tesla was just a little forward looking with producing excess supply over the past 3 to 4 quarters, getting prepared for the shutdowns that they're going to be doing, where they are going to be making improvements in their factories, right? So we're not going to know the answer for that for another few months, of course, but I want to give Elon Musk a little bit of credit. And let's be honest, anybody that's followed me on Twitter knows I'm not Elon Musk's biggest fan, but it does seem like from a business perspective, they are looking forward and they're kind of trying to make the right decisions. Jeff, the last thing I want to talk about here is Cybertruck, because we did hear that there have been the first Cybertruck rolled off the assembly line and that they are slowly starting to ramp up a little bit of production of the Cybertruck, but it's still going to be like a year from now before there's going to be any real volume of production going on from Cybertruck.
Yeah, I sort of remove Cybertruck from my entire calculus when thinking about Tesla for two reasons. One, I think it's going to end up being a niche product. I think there's going to be diehards who want it. You're going to probably see them on the road. I can't see it being an enormous part of their business. I think the bigger question, or the bigger thing for Tesla's future in my mind, is it's going to be a lot of question marks while we are still transitioning to what will probably be a largely EV-driven market, maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. But when that happens and more cars than not are electric, it's really going to boil down to who makes the best electric vehicles. There's a lot more competition now than there was when Tesla started. But if they can keep making good electric vehicles and ultimately better electric vehicles than the US automakers and Volkswagen and everyone else who's going to try it, they have a pretty good advantage, a pretty good head start. And that could give them really nice kind of first mover advantage when this sort of market matures over time.
Jeff, the last thing I want to talk about here is Dojo. This is their compute power. We're hearing more and more about artificial intelligence that Tesla's putting a lot of focus on. And it can be easy to dismiss it, but if you think about all of Tesla's focus on full self-driving, AI really is kind of baked into part of the Tesla story. I want to share how I think about it, though. You talked about Cybertruck, right, is potentially being kind of a niche product. I think it could be more than a niche product, because so many people that buy trucks aren't using them as trucks, right? They're buying it. It's almost a status symbol, or it's an edge case where every once in a while they need to make a trip to Home Depot. But most of the time it's no different than having a Model 3, right? In terms of how they use the vehicle. And so I think there's the potential for Cybertruck to be larger than that. But getting again back to AI and Dojo and the massive investments they're looking to make in compute, how do you think about, with a company like Tesla, even trying to apply any value to any potential AI or robotics revenues down the road?
I think as far as it's related to things like full self-driving and stuff like that, I don't know that it makes a huge difference. And here's why. My kind of overall take on AI has been, just because we're more conscious of it now because of the release of ChatGPT, probably doesn't change what was going on in the background anyway. So in my mind, all of the AI work that Tesla's been doing that we may be cognizant of now is probably started already. And you're still seeing massive problems with full self-driving. There's still videos of it not working and not being as good as it should be. So call me bearish until I see some evidence that it's actually going to pay some dividends.
I agree with you there. I think at this point, we think about, again, solar has been, frankly, it's been a non-starter for Tesla in terms of a real value add for investors. Battery business has been reasonably successful. Powerwall, there are commercial batteries as well. But really, this is an automaker still, right? And I think valuing it as an automaker makes the most sense. And it's the leading automaker in terms of profitability right now. So there should be some premium there, I think. But broadly thinking about all the other things that it does, I mean, you just have to think about those things as, hey, if they work out, they could be wonderful. But I wouldn't buy Tesla or any other stock based on something that may or may not generate some sort of future business without some evidence, right? That's the key, that it's doing it. So I think we can just kind of leave it there.